Yellow, welcome to... Hey, what's up? Welcome to Nicolette Reads. I'm Nicolette, I read.
This is where I would put background music.
If I had one!
So today we're going to be talking about 6 different recent releases that have come out this year that I have read, and I will give you my honest opinions on them. And then after that, I also have a few things of Bookish Mail that I haven't opened yet, so I figured we could do that together. So why don't we just go ahead and get started? So the first book I'm going to talk about is 7 Faceless Saints by M.K. Lobb. This is the Fairy Loot edition. People have mixed opinions on the cover we're working with here, but what's really killer is the edges. So this book is set in a fantasy world where there are 7 saints who are kind of their gods. They oversee things. The saints in this world will elect disciples, I guess, who are blessed with gifts, and the disciples are then raised from whatever position they're in society to the elite. To be chosen as a disciple is a big deal. Our main character is somebody who is from the more plebeian peasant side of this world, and then she is chosen later in life than what usually happens. I think they're usually chosen when they're young. She's chosen more toward adulthood to be a disciple for one of the saints, and so she has to go and live where all the disciples live. However, one of her fellow disciples gets murdered. So we follow her as she tries to figure out who did this murder, as well as the captain of the guard, who just so happens to be somebody that she used to be best friends with / in love with, but they had a falling out and they don't talk to each other anymore. So these two are going to work together to try to figure out who killed this disciple. Are they going to continue killing disciples? And if so, what are they doing? Who are they working for? How are they going to stop it? It's a really fun book. I liked learning about it. This book talks about sort of navigating high versus low class, especially when you're sort of pushed from one to the other very suddenly and what that means for the people around you. It discusses sort of feelings of belonging or of not belonging, as well as kind of discussing faith in a non-traditional sense. Obviously, this is a made-up world, made-up religion, but we're dealing with somebody who is devout, is a believer, and then somebody who's sort of more atheistic toward the whole situation. And they have some really interesting conversations that I feel like opens up a safe space to discuss that, instead of each side being like, you're wrong and here's why. So, I mean, it doesn't focus on that, but they do have a few conversations in here that I thought, okay, that was a nice conversation to have. I thought it was well worth the read. I didn't realize it was going to be a series, so when it ended, I was like, what the heck?
What the heck? I didn't order that.
And I'm excited to see where it goes. I think I found the end of this book to be really satisfying, while also presenting more questions that I then wanted the answer to, and literally the last page I gasped. So I think it will surprise some people. I've seen some people have DNF'd this book, but I feel like if you're feeling like you think you know what's gonna happen, you might as well just keep going, because it has the potential to surprise you, and I think it might be worth going all the way to the end and then decide. For me, it was a win, and I will be reading the next one when it comes out. So I gave this one 4 stars. I liked it. Next up, we have Big Swiss by Jen Beagin. This is a modern, sapphic, not a romance, maybe more literary fiction leaning book about a girl who gets a job transcribing a therapist's sessions for him. So he'll record his sessions and then send them to her, and she types them all out for him and sends them back. So as she's doing this, she's getting to know these people that she's transcribing through their sessions, and she kind of forms this fascination with one of the women that is one of the therapist's clients, and she never knows what their actual names are. They're always signed with initials instead of their actual names. So she nicknames her Big Swiss because of her Swiss accent, I guess. And so one day she unwittingly meets Big Swiss in the wild, and she can recognize her from her voice. So she introduces herself to her under a fake name and doesn't tell her any of the real details about her life, and strikes up this relationship with her. And obviously that's going to implode on itself in one way or another. You can't maintain a relationship built on lies, even your name being one of them. Eventually something's going to happen. So you kind of follow this and the path that it leads her down, and the implications of it and the repercussions of it. My problem with this book is I was having a really good time the whole time, except the end. By the end, I felt like the resolution wasn't there. I felt like this author had a really good idea for her characters, and setting, and then forgot like you need to have an end of some variety, and I don't feel like the characters resolved in a very satisfying way or grew in a satisfying way, or even that as an audience we had a real takeaway at all. So at the end I was just left disappointed, so I gave it 3.25 stars because I really enjoyed the first 7/8 of this book, and then it just kind of ended. Would I recommend this book? No. Not because it's bad, but because I would rather recommend a billion other books to people. But if this floats your goat, then go for it. Okay, the next book we have is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I'm not typically just a straight up romance reader. I'm usually a magic and swords type of gal, but every now and again I will pick up just a straight up romance book. I got this one because I've read Book Lovers, and I really enjoyed that, even though it just felt like a Hallmark movie catered toward people who read, which is good if that's what you're looking for, and I did enjoy that book. It wasn't like mind-blowing or anything, but I liked it enough that I was excited when this one came out and pre-ordered it, and so I read it right away when it came out. And I did like this book. So we're basically following our main character is this girl who broke up with her fiance, but they haven't told their friend group because they're all part of the same friend group, and then they're going to this lake house, chateau situation for the last time because one of the girls that's in the friend group owns it, her family owns it, but their family is selling it. So this is the last time they're gonna be there. So they decide not to ruin everybody's fun by telling them that they broke up. So instead they're just gonna pretend to date the whole time that they're at this place. And it was a good time, and I felt like her relationship with him was believable. But the problem that I had with this book is that the relationships with the friends didn't feel believable. I didn't believe that any of them were real people. Obviously they're not, but you want to be immersed, you want to feel like these could be real people, and I was just like, they feel like caricatures of the characters themselves. Additionally, it's sort of found family, but the found family is so codependent and melodramatic and over the top, and I couldn't with that aspect of this. But as far as the romance part goes, the setting was fun. The characters in and of themselves were fun, but when they interacted with each other, I kind of got the ick. So for me, I was pleasantly satisfied and entertained with the ending of this book as well, so I left in a happy place, you know? What more can you ask for? I mean, if you want to go into this and have a happy time and have a satisfying ending for a romance book, which I feel doesn't happen every single time you read a romance book, then definitely pick this up. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. Okay, up next we have Stormlight by Natalie Haynes. This is a Greek mythology retelling of Medusa's story. So what I really like about this choice in particular is that Medusa is always perceived as a monster, because generally the idea is she has these snakes for hair, and if you look her in the eyes, then you turn to stone, right? And she's used as a weapon in other Greek mythology stories, etc., but you never hear about her herself, how she became this way, you know, what sort of situation got her into this, oh no, every time I look somebody in the eyes, they turn to stone, whoops, way. So in this book, we follow Medusa before she has snakes, and we get to see exactly what happened and what led her to be in this situation, get this curse. And if you're familiar with Greek mythology, then you know that much like how Disney likes to take Grimm's fairy tales and turn them into these woohoo happy stories, the origin stories for Greek mythology are actually very dark, full of sexual assault left and right. And so in this book, she meets a certain god, he sexually assaults her, and then the god's wife blames her for it and curses her. And then wicca, Perseus is a human, and his mom is gonna have to marry this dude, a king, unless he can do something for the king. And the king's like, bring me the head of a gorgon, which is what she is, her and her 2 sisters, because it seems like an impossible task. And so Perseus is like, dope, I'll do that. And so along the way, he's being helped out by some of the other gods, and he's trying to go slay a gorgon in order to bring the head back to the king so that his mom does not have to marry them. So you get the Medusa and Perseus' story, but you have backstories and reasonings and curses. So it's very interesting. The only thing that detracts from this story is that it's very surface level. It's not very deep. So if you're looking for something as strong and heart-wrenching and emotional as something like Song of Achilles, that's a little bit more developed, you're not going to get that here. But what you are going to get is a greater understanding for the story, making Medusa a more sympathetic character, and getting their perspectives in Greek mythology, which I think, hey, give the voice to the women, even if they're mythological. I liked it. I would recommend it. I gave it a 3.5, which for me means, hey, I had a good time. Okay, up next is Camp Zero by Michelle Min Sterling. So I had been excited to read this book ever since I started looking at most anticipated releases because the concept sounded so cool. So what we're kind of getting is, if you're familiar with Station 11, kind of dystopian, not post-apocalyptic, but like in this story, climate change happened. The repercussions have occurred, at least partially. So you're not allowed to use oil anymore. America is just like hot, and the coasts are flooding. So basically, a bunch of people are trying to flee north to Canada, and the Canadians are like, hey, get out. And we're like, no, save us. And Canada's like, no, we don't even take your money anymore. So they built this floating city that, you know, is gonna be fine because it's floating. And it's like a metropolis, and everybody else's houses are in disrepair, and you can't really survive in America anymore. So this rich entrepreneur guy who was in charge of building the floating city says, hey, I'm gonna go up to Canada and build a civilization from the ground up for rich people to live in from America. So he starts building, and they call it Camp Zero. But the thing is, while they're building Camp Zero, they also bring in a harem of women to service these dudes who are making the plans and building Camp Zero. So the higher ups each get assigned a woman, and when they arrive, they're giving fake names, they're assigned to like a dude, and then they service that man during the construction of this thing. So our main character is one of these women, and so while she's in this camp and she's assigned to the head guy that's in charge, she's also there under false pretenses. She's there undercover to provide information back where she came from. So without giving too much away, it's like undercover in a harem, futuristic, in Canada, you can't use oil, people have gold teeth, and it turns into this whole debacle. This book had so much potential, but I feel like it lost its footing somewhere along the lines. Kind of the same fate that I personally believe the Divergent series or the Hunger Games series sort of ended up on, where the premise is really cool, but then the author was like, oh no, I accidentally wrote something complicated and I have to write a good ending for it. And then they're like, oh, I didn't do it. Or like, oops. I feel like this one, by the end, it was lightly predictable. It was dissatisfying, and it basically answered no questions. It sort of was giving Yellow Jackets, but in the future. And if one of the girls in Yellow Jackets was working for Elon Musk, I guess. So, I mean, hey, check it out if you're interested in the concept. I'm glad I read it. Some people are not having it, but I really liked it. Again, for like 7/8 of the book, and then just the end, I was like, well, that could have been different. I gave it 3 stars. Don't regret it. If you're into it, then I would recommend it. If that doesn't sound like anything that you are interested in, skip it. Okay, and finally, yes, I did read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. So I won't bore you all with a plot synopsis. I know that you've probably been bored to death of hearing about this book by now, but if by some way you have not heard of this book, basically what we got going on here is this society has like 3 countries total, and one of them utilizes dragon riders as part of their military. And there's a school that trains the dragon riders, and the general that's in charge of the school is this lady who has a daughter. And the daughter's like, I want to be a scribe. And up until like a month before she has to go off to be a scribe, the mom is like, actually, guess what? You have to be a dragon rider. And the girl's like, what? Because only 15% of the people that have to go to this dragon riding academy survive. And our homegirl is already dealing with a physical disability. And she's like, if you send me there, I am going to die. And her mom's like, I don't care. You have to go. You're my daughter. I'm the one in charge here of this school. You gotta go. So our main character is shoved into this academy for dragon riders, and she has to deal with not only the chance of like falling off of shit and dying, but the dragons could kill you. And then, ooh, plot twist, your fellow candidates can also just murder you with no repercussions because there's only X amount of dragons and there's too many potential riders. So killing each other actually increases your chances of bonding to a dragon. Oh, and did I forget to mention that there's this guy who's also there, and her general mom executed this guy's dad, so he hates her. Whoopsie-daisy. So she has to navigate all of this, whatever. It's a romantasy, but it also is a fantasy because the country that they are in is fighting another one. So we got all that going on. You can call me basic, you can call me whatever you want, but this book, for what it is a 5-star. I'm not saying that as a fantasy book, you know, compared to Brando Sando, it's a 5-star. I'm saying that this book, for being a romantasy novel, is a 5-star romantasy. And here's what I mean. We got the spicy scenes, we got the hot guy, we have some nice friends, we have an interesting plot setting, people are dying, it's action-packed, it's not slow at all. And then at the end, plot twist, can't tell you what it is, obviously. And then at the end, you are satisfied and intrigued and excited. And so I'm very pleased that the second book is already coming out like this November, because the ending will leave you scrambling for the next one. But just know, if you're a fan of dragons, this book is like if Manon Blackbeak from Throne of Glass was at the like Hunger Games Academy that's in Red Rising. Mash those two together. And then that's this book. But then the end is completely different than either of those things. So it's really interesting. If for some reason you haven't decided whether or not you want to read this book, I would personally recommend it. Unless you hate all of those things, then don't. Okay, those are all of the recent releases that I have read. Say that 5 times fast. That I'm going to share with you. I do, however, have a few bookish things that I am going to unbox that I have not opened yet, so I'm going to do that for you now. The first thing that we have is actually from Fairy Loot. I believe that it is my replacement book for my copy of Divine Rivals, which if you watched my Fairy Loot unboxing video from May 2023, my book was damaged, and I was very sad about it because I think that copy of that book is #gorgeous. So I sent them an inquiry, a ticket, a little letter on May 30th, and they responded the next day, and they said, thank you for letting us know. We'll send you a new one. No further action needed. It will arrive max 20 to 30 business days later, but usually a lot sooner. So it was May 30th, and then guess what came in the mail? June 9th, the replacement. So here we are. They made sure it was packaged well. We got tons of peanuts. They gave me the little cardigan. And then we've got the book. They put it in the package again. Wouldn't you just cry if this one was damaged too? Oh, we got the author letter again. And here we are. A beautiful, undamaged version of Fairy Loot's copy of Divine Rivals. I mean, it's stunning. We got books over here. I mean, you can go watch my Fairy Loot one if you want the full kit and caboodle, but come on. Gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I actually did read this book already because I had the Owl Crate version as well, but I'll tell you about it later. Okay, the next thing we have is a Amazon box. So I ordered this a long time ago because I saw that it was coming out and I wanted to make sure that I got it right away when it was released. So this is the 4th volume in Lore Olympus. Here we are. She's a beauty, Clark. Just the regular copy, and it's so gorgeous. So if you haven't heard of Lore Olympus, it's basically a graphic novel series, webtoon phenomenon. It's a retelling of Hades and Persephone. 3 volumes are already out. They're up there. This is the 4th one. I believe there's gonna be 6 total. And it was originally published online, but then it got really popular. And so they decided to publish them. And they made these gorgeous copies. And it just is such an interesting concept with beautiful art. It's like spicy and adult, sort of, but also it contains trigger warnings, sexual assault, because once again we're dealing with Greek gods, and just a very interesting premise paired with beautiful art. They're super quick to read. Every time a new one comes out, I find myself rereading whichever ones have already come out before, just because I don't want to forget anything, because they don't take that long. You can probably read the whole thing in an hour or less, but if you take the time and really look at the art and appreciate it, it is gorgeous. So very excited to have this. And I think the next 2 are still coming out this year. Okay, and the last thing I have to show you guys comes in a tube. So I ordered this from Kraken Books Co., which is actually a UK based company, and I am based in the US. So I ordered this like May 31st, and it shipped internationally. It shipped internationally by June 14th. I think 2 weeks for a pretty good turnaround. In my opinion, they put a cute little thank you on the top of their tube. Oh, sure. And what these are, hi, why don't you show the people who you are? Come here. Yep, here she is. There's the dog. You're famous now. Thanks. Okay, you can go now. But I just got here. Thanks. So what these are alternate / custom dust jackets for the Stormlight archive by Brandon Sanderson. I won't make you suffer through watching me put these on, so let me just show you what the original ones look like. So this is what we're working with. Thick boys. And the original ones are really cool in and of themselves. But now let me magically show you what the new ones look like. Are y'all ready for this? Oh, wow. Aren't they amazing? So they all line up to make this gorgeous picture. But then if you just take like one, for example, it is also the gorgeous picture. Right? So this one is the Way of Kings, which is the first one. Here's the cover. And then we got the gorgeous spine that says which one it is, and then it has this cute little character guy down here. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that's Kaladin. Words of Radiance just moves slightly over. And we got Shallan, Oathbringer, got a big 3, and that's our homeboy Dalinar. And then I can only assume who this person is, and I'm not also gonna say because this is the 4th book, and spoiler alert, you know what I mean? But anyway, they all line up to make such beautiful copies. They're gonna look so good on my shelves. And I will link down below where I got them from, Kraken Books in the UK, in case you want to get them for yourself. So that is all that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I talk to you about the books that I've read recently. Let me know if you've read any of them and if you agree, disagree. Were there any other recent releases that you guys have read that I should be reading that I missed out on? Like if you liked it, subscribe if you feel like it, and I will see you next time. Hello. What are you looking at? Oh, hello. Oh, hi. Hello. The problem with dog hair is that I have a dog.